Coming up next on Access Framingham, a two-part Travels with Jack show. First, we'll visit Cuba, then we'll drive from Florida to the Berkshire Mountains with my guest, Nadia Rodberg. Stay tuned. Hello, I'm Jack Barron, host of Travels with Jack on Access Framingham TV, where guests share with our audience a recent trip, a vacation, a cruise, or maybe a day trip right here in New England. You'll see their photos and hear about the exciting places they have visited. In 2018, frequent traveler and guest on Travels with Jack, former Framingham resident Dr. Nadia Rodberg and her husband Roman made not one but two trips. In May, they visited Cuba. In July, they drove from their Florida home to the Berkshires in Massachusetts, traveling north on the Blue Ridge Parkway and Skyline Drive with stops along the way. What parts of the world have you visited? Please be my guest on Travels with Jack. Share your travel experience with our viewing audience. Just contact us here at Access Framingham Television and let us know you'd like to be a guest. You can phone AFTV at 508-875-5434, or you can send an email message to info@accessfram.tv. One of our associate producers will contact you to make arrangements for you to be on our show here on Access Framingham TV. If you don't live in Massachusetts, we would be pleased to assist you with your travel to access the Framingham studio. And now let me welcome Dr. Nadia Rodberg back to Travels with Jack. Nadia, great to see you.
Thank you, Jack. It's nice to be back.
Thank you. I'm just going to read a short note here. Dr. Nadia and her husband Roman Rodberg, formerly of Framingham, are currently residing in Florida, enjoying retirement and traveling as much as they can.
Absolutely.
They join us today because they are visiting Framingham, their children, and said to our executive director, Bill, I want to be on Travels with Jack. So, of course, I said, absolutely. So here today is Dr. Nadia, and she will be sharing with us her recent trips to Cuba and the Blue Ridge Parkway, and give us a preview discussion on her new book she wrote, Double Exposure.
Thank you, Jack.
So,
thank you.
Nadia, thank you. And tell me, you're in Florida, you're 90 miles from Cuba. What decided I'd want to go to Cuba?
Well, as you know, for many years I retired being your guest. It's always a big pleasure. It's wonderful to share our travel and our lifestyle. And we always try to bring it back to your viewers and to Framingham, to all my patients, former patients, to all colleagues in Metro West Medical Center. So thank you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure.
I did retire a few years ago, and we moved to Florida last year, but we didn't sever our connection with Framingham and its residents, as you know. So we try to travel as much as we can. Also, retirement makes it much more easy. So we decided that after traveling to over 110 countries, we were looking where else to go. And we didn't want it to go to Mongolia or Bangladesh.
Not yet.
Not yet. Or to Iran or
there.
Afghanistan.
You'll get there.
So we decided that Cuba would be our next travel. And we took a cruise from Miami for 9 days on Serena, on Oceania Cruises, to
this was 9 days.
cities, 3 cities in Cuba. We were very curious because, as you know, we are formerly from Russia many years ago, almost 40 years ago, but it's always kind of on the back of our mind. So we wanted to see how that Cuba, that is only still socialist, communist, so to speak, country, carrying on its life for its people, its lifestyle and existence. So it was very interesting. And of course, our opinion and our perception of Cuba was different from our co-traveler on Oceania cruises. So for us, it was kind of partially coming back and knowing when people needed or had to lie, not because they wanted to lie. So initially, we stopped in Havana for 2 days. We took a couple tours, and we went to Cabaret, very famous cabaret in Havana. And we looked at all the old cars, the first prerequisite of tourists in Cuba. And everybody was snapping pictures of blue car and pink car. And I tried to talk to people and ask the question how they live. And sometimes they had to present their lifestyle in much more colorful way.
So you don't think they gave you a straight answer?
Right. Well, on the first 2 days, we went to Havana. And as you would be able to see on the pictures, you see unbelievable contrast of the country.
Oh,
so,
here's a map.
Wonderful.
So very quickly, we see Florida is...
right. You see on the top of the country, and Havana. We stopped in Havana, then went to Cienfuegos and to Santiago de Cuba. And then after this, we stopped at Bahama. And that was the trip. So Havana was incredibly interesting.
This is from your ship.
When you see from the ship, when you approach Havana, it looks presentable. It looks like a, normal city in America somewhere, or maybe in some other European even country. But as you can see more, and you see more close the pictures, you see unbelievable contrast in Havana. The central squares are kind of repaired. Most of these buildings are repaired and painted, but then you see next building is in shambles. You see how one is painted bright yellow, and one on the left is completely destroyed. It's not livable, and people had to do their own repair, but people have no funds to do this. So many buildings stayed unoccupied even.
Oh, really? There were a lot
So because they are not, if you see, this is the pier. Our ship is coming to the pier on the right. You see how new and painted it? And then look at the pier on the left. It's completely destroyed. And people who never been to Russia might say, well, everybody has some building that needs some repairs, but it's not. Lots of building needs repair. Lots of buildings were built before 1960s when Americans had to leave Cuba and Russians came. Lots of Russians. By now, even ethnic, you see, look how pier on the left and pier on the right.
And this, you think, reminds you a little of Russia.
Right.
Where you don't...
Because everything's supposed to be repaired by the state, but there's no funds, and people don't make enough money to do anything, and nothing is owned by people, so they can do this. So even, the Russian presence in Cuba, this is one of the monuments.
This is a monument.
One of the monuments. They have lots of monuments. They have buildings. They have portrait of Che Guevara and Fidel Castro, and you see, this is Che.
Oh, that's Che on the building. But the building looks all beaten up.
Right, but that's how they are. The old buildings that were built by Americans or by rich Cuban are still fine, But if they need repair, forget it. They're
Forget
not.
it.
Look at the stairs on this building. So instead of taking pictures of beautiful, cute old cars that are repaired by enthusiasts and some Cubans, I tried to show that this country doesn't have lots of funds to keep up, to make what was lost. They can't. This is interesting. In Havana, what do you think it is? It's a memorial to Rosenbergs.
Oh, really?
Yes, and it's in the center of Havana.
Oh, there's a
Obviously,
memorial
Russian
to them?
influence was so important to Communist Party that they put memorial to the Rosenbergs right in the middle of Havana.
For our younger viewers, this is Ethel and what was her husband's name?
I don't remember, Alfred, I think.
But who were tried for
Right, they were
U.S.
spies.
treason
They were spies. They were Soviet spies.
and were put to death.
Oh, absolutely.
Julius, Ethel and Julius.
Right.
Yes.
So that's the memorial to the Rosenbergs.
Oh,
We
there's
were
a
a little
memorial
bit
to- okay.
taken aback. And this is a couple of cute old cars, and you can see them all through the slides.
Ah,
And
there we
well,
go.
I demonstrate a little cute pink car for the lady. And this is Havana from the hill. So you can see how many buildings are really not painted, not occupied, destroyed. It's a beautiful city. At some point, I wrote on my first, I just can read it to you. The 500 years old Grand Dame is still showing off trace of the old glory. One can see how beautiful and graceful she was when she was young, until Batista and later Che and Fidel gang raped her. She is really old now, with sagging skin and empty broken orbits, where once shimmered blue like sky and deep like an ocean clear eyes, windows into the free world. She is old, but I could see how elegant and eclectic she once was. No dilapidated, no, so sorry for the formal pearl or Caribbean and beauty queen of cool Cuba. So this is the former glory of Havana. And then you see the buildings.
What is that building? Is that
Well,
something?
there's old hotels, there's old palaces. They were occupied by prominent families, and now they're not occupied, or if they are, they will be freshly painted and
This looks like an
done.
embassy, maybe. Is that the EU flag I'm seeing, I think?
it could be, but you know, they probably repair one floor.
Oh.
It's like a lot of building in the center of the city looking like quite old. And of course, this
this
is cabaret.
Is the cabaret. How was that?
It was wonderful. It was
Oh,
very
good.
interesting. Although when we went, we were offered 2 drinks during the performance, but we were warned by the ship and by our tour guide, please do not drink anything. It's like Mexico now.
Really?
So
you mean
nobody-
saying what, the drinks weren't good?
No, nothing that had ice or water could be consumed in those. So we starved to death.
Oh, the ship,
But
the ship
the
told
show,
you that
yeah,
there's
that's Roman and
Roman,
was the Che.
Nadia's husband. Oh, with the hat.
Was the Che, right?
With
this is
Che
Cuban
Guevara
military,
hat, yeah.
right? It's a Cuban military hat. They sold everywhere as a souvenirs, and this
Okay.
is another car. And this is ship
Oh,
on the left,
yep.
and you see how building looks.
Yes.
I mean, nothing like this could ever be seen in the United States
No.
or in Paris or anywhere else. It's
No, I'm glad you're showing these pictures because, you know, so few of the tourists that I've seen pictures of Cuba show you
yeah,
this. It's always, the beautiful palm trees and
right. It's a beautiful country. You know, it was occupied. I was a little bit surprised yesterday, and when we traveled, to learn that Aborigines lived in Cuba since 4 millennium before Christ.
Oh, really?
So till 15th century, still it was captured by Spanish.
Yes.
And actually, you look in, we'll go to Cienfuegos and then to Santiago de Cuba. This is just small town, very pleasant. Here's your palms. This is your water. This is beautiful hotels. It's kind of like, you can rest there. You can go for vacation.
So this area, the Cienfuegos, you thought was a little more modern than
It's
Havana.
not as modern. It's low-key. There's
Low-key.
no multi-story buildings. It's a little bit, it's pleasant people. We had some performances. It has gorgeous bay, incredible music. And this is, somebody said that Roman looks like, not like Fidel,
But the
like
brother.
Raul. If you see, so I took 3 pictures in a row. Unfortunately, the same glasses, the same mustache, the same.
No, I don't see the
same-
similarity, but that's all right.
Same face, unfortunately.
Oh,
But
that looks nice. What is that?
This is Santiago de Cuba, I believe. So you see those palaces.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful area with landscape, beautiful landscape. And as before, rich Cuban or rich American occupied those buildings. Now they're occupied either by government buildings or by communists. So
Important communist government official.
Yep. So in this particular, I believe this was probably Bacardi Mansion.
Oh, really?
And this is the
Okay.
Palace of the Pioneers now. But most of the buildings that you'll see right after this is in a beautiful area of Santiago de Cuba. And you see, this is
The rest of the
rest
story.
of the
rest of the story.
Right, exactly. And you
Now,
see
did
how-
you talk with the other guests on your ship? Were they surprised by the deterioration of the city, or?
Not really. People do understand that it was prominent at some very, flourished country. And now, of course, since Russian came, and it was interesting because even ethnic consistency of Cuba changed since Russian came. Because initially it was Aborigines, Taina, and Siboney, and then Spanish,
Yep.
and then they brought some black from Africa slaves, and then
Oh,
it
they
was
had
Russian.
slavery. I didn't
they
even
had
know that.
slavery,
Okay.
and then they had Russians. So Slavic, you can see in some people. We saw a beautiful performance by the woman's choir, and we could see some Slavic faces there.
Really?
And we could see, the blonde, blue eyes Slavic woman there. So it was interesting just to see. This is just money. This is about $10, but normal Cubans don't get in this.
Explain that to our audience, that there's
Okay.
2 different revenues,
So
2 different monies.
party officials, high government officials will be getting money. That dollar is equal Cuban pieza. But the rest of the country don't get this money. They paid in a much devalued currency. So they can't, if government official will get $200 and it's $200, then somebody will get 200 in different value and it's not 200, it will be $20.
I got you.
So it's completely 2 different currency for foreigners, for tourists, for big party officials, and for the people who are working there. I tell you, in Santiago de Cuba, it's a very interesting town. It's a Fidel Castro town, and you could see he was buried there. He went to prominence from Santiago de Cuba, and they're building mausoleum for Fidel Castro there. You can't visit his grave. Many people wanted to see Fidel Castro grave. He's buried there, but you can't see
Why?
it because they're building
Oh.
grand mausoleum for Fidel Castro. That's also the town that has, if you see further, the soldiers from Massachusetts fought in the American-Spanish War
in the
there.
Spanish-American War.
And,
Okay.
and America and the from Massachusetts, soldiers from Massachusetts, were the first one to disembark, and they fought, and they put a little memorial park there.
Really? Oh.
You see a little bit further. I took a big picture. I was so glad to see something from Massachusetts. So it was interesting. It's also the town, you see?
There it is, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts erected this tablet in memory of the officers and men of the 2nd Regiment, Massachusetts Infantry, United States Volunteers, who gave their lives to free Cuba in the war with Spain, 1898.
And it was so lovely
Beautiful.
to see. And they have statue there and many monuments in the park. It was it's an old, it was before 1960. This is the girl that she is a big chef in a big boss in a tourist agency that provided tours for many people from the ship. She is absolutely wonderful. Her name is Kenia Aranda, and we're friends on a Facebook now.
Oh, okay.
And I had long conversation with her. If you know, this girl who is in charge of some tourist agency never had been outside of her town.
Outside of her town?
Outside of her
Really?
town. Never mind outside of Cuba. That's absolutely impossible. They're not allowed. She couldn't travel anywhere, but outside of her town. And this is town where famous balcony where Fidel Castro had a 6.5-hour speech. This is the balcony. This is the town hall. This is the famous balcony that he seduced the nation with 6.5-hour speech. He was a lawyer. He was young. He was handsome. And he believed in his cause, obviously. And in 1962, there was missile crisis when, Russia and America almost went to nuclear war. He was seducing Cuba to go with Soviet Union. And what did they gain? What did they get in exchange? Nothing. Raul Castro is gone. Now, hopefully, maybe it will be some softening of the course, but I doubt very much.
I doubt it.
Because, in my opinion, and don't quote me, but communist and socialism has no future. So this is, I'm sorry.
No, listen, I want you to go to Venezuela. We'll do a show on Venezuela.
We did. We went twice to Venezuela.
You'll go again and tell the guests how bad it became.
Right. We were twice in Venezuela. It was a beautiful country many years ago.
Yes, a long time
ago. But
ago.
this is the cruise terminal in Santiago de Cuba. They are checking everybody. They just want tourists to leave. They don't want other people to leave, and there's many who want to.
Oh, they want to make sure that the only people who get on the ship are the people who came.
Absolutely.
They don't want to let their own citizens go.
Right, and this is a cutesy
the cars. Yeah.
Just, what's the tourists needed to take a picture. And with this, we left Cuba and went on to Bahama. And so this is also Santiago de Cuba. It's perfect cathedral. There's beautiful hotel in this square.
Did they seem like religion was coming back, or did you find the people were not too religious? No, not religious.
No. We are always amazed, when we see Russia now.
Yeah.
When we left Russia 40 years ago, there was no religion. Religion was separated from the state. There were no religion. All of a sudden, with changes in Russia, lots of people became vehemently religious.
Really? Okay.
So we were surprised how it could be that people were not religious, and within 1 or 2 generations, religion just made a comeback. In Cuba, we didn't see. I can't see. I didn't see so. So
because
this is the hotel on a square, beautiful building. It's a beautiful square, but of course, everything is painted and.
You wouldn't know this, but I had family in Cuba.
Oh.
Yeah, I had 2 great aunts, and they had left in '58. But the synagogue in Cuba was the largest hall in all of Cuba, was in the temple in Havana, and they used to have a lot of political functions there because It was such a big
Right.
room to accommodate for
Right.
dining and everything. They had
We
a big
didn't
community.
see it. This is the town hall with this balcony that really changed the way
The
of
history.
the nations, the history. And he still came, he wanted to be buried in Santiago de Cuba, not in Havana.
And this is also?
This is a hotel that we
Oh,
were,
okay.
walking in. It's beautiful hotel, beautiful bar on the top. But actually, this is the place that you couldn't buy anything. Like we went to some hotel in Cienfuegos, very, hotel for foreigners. Then we could find some souvenirs. Otherwise, all the souvenirs was the military uniform that everybody was selling.
So they
And
didn't even have a lot of things for you to buy.
No, we didn't buy. You could, a little T-shirt now and then.
Did you see the artwork at all? I've always heard everyone say there's a lot of good art and artists in Cuba.
We went
in Havana in particular.
we went to art building in Santiago de Cuba. Lots of modern art. Very, people of our age are not very fond of lots of modernism art, It wasn't really the art that we expected. They showed us some dancing, and it's also in a picture somewhere. And so, it wasn't impressed. It was
weren't impressed.
typical Latin stuff. And in the art building, lots of not even landscapes, nothing. It's mostly modern art that, could be done anywhere, not necessarily Cuba, not
Haiti,
necessarily
whatever.
anywhere in Latin America. We weren't really impressed.
Okay.
But we were glad that we went because at some point in Havana, I stopped, those are the mansions that now belongs to another nouveau riches, another riches. It's from one riches to another, and where's the people? Looking in all this, look,
Now this is in Santiago?
this is Santiago de Cuba.
Okay. Oh, so there were a lot of nice homes in that city.
Yes, but they're not occupied by
No, I mean
doctors
originally.
or engineers or lawyers. They're occupied by party.
Government officials.
Right. Well, mostly it's communist
No, I
party
mean communist
official,
government officials.
because that's the only
That's who has the
Right.
power.
right. So you see,
Oh, this is the artwork, yeah.
This is the art. But after seeing all this for 9 days, we felt that we need to go to Middle America. We needed to go back home.
Now, did you bring any pictures of the Bahamas you went to after
Yeah,
the Cuba?
well, was, unfortunately, the weather all 9 days wasn't really nice. It was, we took over 40 cruises. This was the first time that when we came to Miami early in the morning, there was an announcement that due to weather, Miami port is closed
really?
and not accepting cruise ships, and that we will be disembarking 3 hours later. They changed their mind and eventually took us like after an hour. But it was rainy and stormy, Bahama, Miami.
Oh, so you
and
had
summer.
off weather.
So weather wasn't cooperating.
When was this
so
trip? September, October?
May.
Oh, May. You had bad
It
weather
was
in
May.
May?
It was terrible.
Really?
And this was very rainy summer,
Yep.
starting from Florida. And then even on our way here, we planned to do, 1,200 miles between Florida and Boston is not enough for me to travel.
Now, Bill was kind enough, he did a map.
Yes,
so
that's
you
wonderful.
starting in Florida.
So we decided that what is 3 days travel? It's not enough. I said, let's go west and go through Appalachian. And I heard that Blue Ridge Parkway was the most visited national park in United States. Since 1935, when Roosevelt actually gave an order to build this parkway, only 3 years it wasn't the most popular national park. Otherwise, every year, Blue Ridge Parkway called as the best national park, the most visited, the most popular national park. So I said, okay, this is
something for me to see.
something for us to see. So let's drive through Blue Ridge Parkway. And so we decided to go west from Florida. And we scheduled 7-day trip. So we drove to St. Augustine first.
Yep.
And even though it was a little town in northern Florida, in the East Coast, I decided that it was one of the most interesting town because you'll see we saw the oldest wooden school in the whole United States.
Is in St. Augustine.
St. Augustine. This is hotels and colleges in St. Augustine, which was built by the richest who put the railroads to Florida. This is Castillo San Marco. This is National Monument. It's like a fortress on a bay. Beautiful bridge that goes to St. Augustine. We stay in a beautiful B&B, but the most we were impressed, we walked the main St. George Street in St. Augustine. Unfortunately, we had only like half a day, but we saw this oldest wooden schoolhouse in the United States. This is Castillo San Marco. And the most I learned, there's Minorcan heritage. Minorcans are people who were brought from Spain, from island in Spain, and from some other nearby islands to Florida, and were given permission to work on plantation in New Smyrna. But then, like in a few years, they couldn't anymore to get crops, so they walk to St. Augustine, over 70 miles they walk. And till now, St. Augustine keep this Minorcan heritage. Lots of people who are very fond of it, they speak special dialect,
Oh, really?
and they have their own poetry.
Oh, look at this beautiful red. This is
beautiful town, very, very beautiful, very cultural, lots of museum, lots of really good art. So we enjoy staying in St. Augustine the first day. And then the second day,
there's Roman.
you see, this is Minorcan heritage.
Yep.
It's the whole story about this group of people who brought to Florida and started this special.
This was before it was the United States, correct? This is when the.
This was in 1760.
Oh, so right, okay, so we were
right,
just becoming.
Right. But then the next, you see, this is the oldest wood schoolhouse in the United States.
Are they still teaching there?
Nah, I don't think so. And then on the second day, we drove from Florida. This is the Bridge of Lions. This is a beautiful bridge that goes to St. Augustine. And from there, we drove through Georgia. Beautiful bridge. This is the beautiful bridge in Savannah.
Yeah.
It goes through airport, and then we drove to South Carolina to Columbia. And this is part of the way. And then we got to South Carolina, and we stayed in Columbia for one day. We drove 2 cars with our friends.
Oh, you had another couple go with you.
Another couple decided to join us, and they drove in their own car.
Yep.
They just follow us and stay in the hotels all the way. Old friends. They're a little older they're not old. This is the first look in a Blue Ridge Mountain. And the weather, we plan to go to the south from there and start from the mile 469 on the Blue Ridge Parkway and drive all these 469 miles. But unfortunately, the started to rain and it started to get dark, and we decided that instead of going south and start on the mile 469, we'll go to Asheville in North Carolina, where we had a hotel booked on Biltmore Estate. It's a state.
Oh, you stayed there.
It's a state that, here it is.
I've always wanted to go there. What do you think of that?
Well, we stay for 2 days. We book for 2 days, Biltmore Estate. It's, it's the biggest private estate in United States, built by Vanderbilt.
Yes.
Not by the old grandfather, but his grandson, who really was known only for collecting arts,
Okay.
building beautiful house. And on Biltmore Estate, he and his young wife then started farm, started forestry school. It's a huge, huge estate. It's absolutely beautiful.
It is, yeah.
We stay right on the estate in a Biltmore Inn, right on the estate. It was absolutely wonderful. You see, this is this on estate. It's a beautiful mansion. They did lots of good for people in Asheville, for North Carolina. They developed tourism. They brought they built roads. They built they gave lots of jobs. They were very good to the people who work for them. And it has
And this still draws a lot of visitors, I would assume.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes. It's this is one of the part of the river that goes by estate. And they built winery. They started producing wine.
Really?
They built a lot. They had stables. The estate is
Now, who
immense.
runs it today? A foundation?
By Vanderbilts.
Oh, the Vanderbilts still?
The Vanderbilts,
Really? They
yes.
still own it?
Yes. Well, his wife sold part of the acreage to the state.
Okay.
But in management, it's still run by Vanderbilts.
Really?
By the family. Actually, if there was a book by Anderson Cooper and his mother.
Yeah.
She is one of the descendants of Vanderbilt, and some of the great grandchildren still live in a mansion. They still live there, and they still manage a estate.
Really?
And people who work there, the foundation people, the ambassadors people, are extremely fond of the family. The family did so much wonderful thing for them. So they
I see,
had,
the winery.
in
Yeah.
Biltmore, they have right now Chihuly,
glass.
the glass. You'll see lots of this glass in the pictures. It's absolutely beautiful. It's held in such a beautiful, organization of everything. The signage in the park, everything was absolutely spectacular.
Oh, I'd like to go there.
And when you see, that's driving to Biltmore. This is the alley that just goes to in and to the mansion.
You'll have a picture of the mansion too?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this
yes.
is
Well,
this is the hotel?
This is hotel. It's library. It
Yep.
has terrace, and this is the view on a mountain. And when you look on a mountain, like we did from our room and in, you can see Asheville like on a shell inside of the mountain. It's mostly covered by fog in the morning. It's look absolutely spectacular. And when
Yes, it looks beautiful.
Right. But this is just the view.
Now,
from,
what made you pick to go on this hotel? Did you just did the research on
Right.
going on the Blue Ridge Parkway
Right.
and this came up?
We noticed that Blue Ridge Parkway, most of the people would, either start in Asheville or finish in Asheville. Depends. If you start on the north in Virginia, in a town called Front Royal, in a Shenandoah National Park, and go by Skyline Drive.
Yep.
Then you go down to the south, you go by Blue Ridge Parkway, and you stop in Asheville, because that's kind of like official end of the Blue Ridge Parkway and the start in Virginia. But we stayed for 2 days. We enjoyed really.
How was the food there? Good? Everything?
Yes, everything was first class. It was wonderful. This is the
Oh,
mansion.
this is the mansion.
This is the mansion on the right. There is a stables, and this is the mansion. It's unbelievable. Not only how grand and how big it is, but how contemporary it was. They had a pool inside of the mansion. They had a sports gymnasium.
When was it built? Do you know?
It was built in.
The 20s? Earlier?
It was probably at the beginning last century.
Okay,
at
so the
some
late
point.
1800s.
Right. Maybe not, because Olmsted, who was a main landscaper for the estate,
who did a lot in Boston.
And he also did the Central Park.
Yes.
He was the major landscaper of the park.
Really?
So it probably was maybe mid
Late 1800s.
Late 1800s.
Oh,
I'm
really?
sorry, I didn't
that's
look
who
it
did
up.
all the layout.
It's on. This
Oh,
is,
look at. Oh, there's
this
the
is
glass you were
right.
talking about.
This is the pond, and
Yep.
they have like Chihuly boats
Yep.
and everything. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful exposition of Chihuly glass.
Wow, look how great his stuff looks in a pond like that.
Right.
Isn't that great?
And then that's the view. You see under the fog in the shell, there's an Asheville. This is our inn. It's a part of our inn. It's a view from our inn. It's absolutely gorgeous, spectacular town, beautiful, very cultured, very
It looks
wonderful. It was really wonderful. And so you see how it looks? This is Asheville in the mountains from the view from the...
Now, how was the town of Asheville itself? Nice?
It was nice. We drove through it. We really didn't see too much of it.
Okay.
But because we mostly were anxious to get on the Blue Ridge Parkway, and weather really didn't cooperate. The town that we planned to start drive, Cherokee, was under flash flood warning. So we started
so between
in
the
Asheville.
Cuba trip and this, the weather was
Right.
not with you.
No. So we started with Asheville and drove, first day, we drove to Roanoke in
Roanoke, Virginia. Yep.
And it's the Blue Ridge Parkway by itself really deserve a few words. So the Blue Ridge was built, I just got a little bit of information here. So it's starting with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who started the project in 1935. It was finished in 1960s.
Oh, not till 19, really?
No, not till 1960s. It has unbelievable amount of bridges, number of bridges and tunnels, and the final piece, the viaduct, it's Lynn Cove. It's a 8 miles long viaduct that they actually just put around the mountain so they would not destroy the greenery or the tunnel. They didn't want it to do anything. Ended up in 85. So the full length of Blue Ridge Parkway took over 50 years to build. And it's naturally continues into Skyline Drive that is started in Shenandoah National Park in Virginia and going to the north. And this is Roman in a mansion.
The mansion looks pretty
and
big.
This is the atrium in a mansion. It's spectacular. It's absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
And then we went from there. This is at night with the
This
friends.
is what, in one of the
It's in the
lobbies?
Biltmore. No, in the Biltmore in the restaurant in our hotel.
Okay.
It's in the Biltmore.
Oh, this is in your hotel, not
Right.
the mansion. Okay.
No, there's nothing in the mansion, just the mansion. It's on the side. There's Biltmore Inn
So
Hotel.
wait, do you go in the mansion and see the furnishings and
Yes.
everything? Oh, you do? Okay.
Yes. It's amazing. You need like at least a day just to
Just for the mansion.
Just for the mansion. And they have, like we stay in a hotel, we had unlimited access to mansion and audio. So you go from room to room and they tell you what it is. And from there, we started Blue Ridge. I'm waiting for the picture of Blue Ridge Parkway just to impress you. This is just
Well,
the
here you
start.
had good weather.
Yes. We drove for 2 days on a Blue Ridge Parkway, and until we ended with in Shenandoah National, it was 2 days of good weather. We could see some showers. Asphalt was wet, but we never got the shower for those 2 days. We got very, very lucky. But in this Blue Ridge Parkway, no matter how many pictures you take, and how good your camera, you can't really reflect all this incredible beauty. It runs only on a ridge. It goes from summit to summit, from pinnacle to pinnacle, on the top of the mountains. You see on one side and on another side, this incredible, incredible mountain ridges. I never knew America is such a mountainous country. It's just incredible view. And you can, the greenery there, all shades of green, emerald green and light green and blue green and beautiful wildflowers. We saw lots of deer. We saw a little cub of a black bear. But and it wasn't really very crowded. We were very, very lucky with this. But we drove. This is one of the Greggy Gardens.
So you didn't find it overwhelmed with a lot of tourists?
No.
Oh,
no.
That's interesting.
And maybe it was because, we drove the length of the Parkway. We drove the whole thing. Because people, I can imagine, there's no gas station on the Parkway. And there's very limited facilities. They have like a few visitor centers that have the ladies' room, the men's room. They're not the top of the line. And it takes some, time to get to one.
So you think most people just drive an hour, 2
right.
hours?
I think people, and it's true, it's probably the right way, because to drive for 2 days was overwhelming. There's no telephone reception, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no gas station. So you are in complete wilderness. It's one...
Nature.
Right. One lane here and one lane here, 35 speed, and you can't do anymore. It's dangerous. It's in the mountains. And to drive for 2 days, Roman was fed up. He said, how many mountains you want me to see? If you remember, I did show with you a few years ago when we did cross-country trip.
Yes.
We traveled for over 40 days. And that brings me actually to another adventure that I did since I retired, because that's the book that I managed to write since I retired. It's just
Double
the
exposure.
cover.
Yep.
It's just the cover. And speaking of the travel, that's just the time to talk about this, because...
Yeah, let me hear about your book.
Okay, so if you remember, we traveled 5 years ago. We traveled for our anniversary cross-country for a few weeks. And we stop every day in a new place, in a new hotel. And I'm trying to get it right. I can't. Okay. So it's called Double Exposure. It's had Soviet passport. And you know why? Because actually the book has 50 chapters. Each chapter is a day of travel cross-country. In a book, Russian refugees who came to America made their life in the United States, celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary with the drive cross-country.
So the 50 years of marriage you did.
Right. They drove for 50 days. And each day they drive through national parks, as you might remember.
Yes, I remember.
We took the northern route. We drove from Boston to California, down by the Pacific Highway, back through South National Parks.
I remember the parks. You just loved the national parks.
And each day they reminiscence about their past life. I remember my family life in Soviet Union, the revolution, the Civil War, how my parents served in the Second World War. So here is the double exposure, because each day is a double exposure. First is a travel day in the United States, and second is a memory about family life in Russia and how really, you know, we didn't come here because of the money. We were refugees. We came because we ran from something that we didn't like, we didn't want it to know. So knowing about this, I decided that I need to write the book and to tell why and how we got here from Russia. And now it's almost 40 years, and next month we're really celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary with Roman. But back to Blue Ridge Parkway. Sorry for the...
No, I'm thrilled. I think it sounds like a wonderful book. A wonderful
Hopefully,
story. A tribute. A tribute to
Right.
America.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And I hope that I will be able to launch it maybe next month, maybe months after, in Framingham for my patients in Metro West, for Metro West Medical Center, my colleagues. But anyway, we drove through Blue Ridge, and Craigie Garden is a place with lots of beautiful wildflowers that you can see right on every side of the road. There are so many overlooks in the Blue Ridge Parkway that you're coming out, you see all the stones, you're coming out and you see forever. And all you see is ridge after ridge of beautiful
It looks
mountains.
like it's very well protected, though, from development. Is most of the land set aside?
People who used to live there,
Yeah.
many of them got some jobs while Parkway was built, but many had to leave because there was regulations. They couldn't bring any of the agricultural machines or anything on a Blue Ridge Parkway. It's forbidden. There's some parts of Blue Ridge that you can see the farms, but not many really.
Not many.
Not many. Because it's a hard road to drive, but it's a beautiful road. You can
So it
see.
looks like the state and the government wanted to keep this very natural.
Right. It's protected.
Yep.
It's well managed. We saw lots of rangers, lots of not the police or anything, but actually rangers in a car that protected. At some point, some big car bypassed me, and I said, "What is he doing?" He's passing over, and it's turned out to be it's rangers. They saw a black bear.
Oh.
And they had to stop traffic so tourists would not approach the wildlife. So this is overlooked. You can come and you can take picture and you can kind of not turn around. It's a great ride. It's a beautiful ride across America.
I see how they cut through the mountains
Lots
too.
of tunnel, lots of bridges, lots of beautiful view. It's hard to tell how beautiful it is. You have really to see it. After a while we stop even stopping on those overlooks. We just sail. We just flew through all this incredible beauty. No telephones, no Wi-Fi, no gas station, not even bathrooms. But we sailed through all this incredible beauty. And it was such a tribute to United States. It was, I took some picture just to show that, yes, we drove the land of the Blue Ridge and Skyline. And it's, our friends are a little older than I. And I said, we all are more close to 80 than to 70 now. And we did it. So anybody
so you
can
do it. Well, you're a strong traveler anyway.
Right. Well, we
I
try to
remember
keep
you
up.
were in Africa and you were busy with all the
Right.
Africans there.
But,
Namibia, I think I remember.
Right.
You were in. Yes.
We were in Namibia, right? And
Yeah.
the sand dunes in Namibia. It was travel. Somebody said that travel is the only expense that make you richer. And it is true. It is true. Any place, any company, when you start to talk about travel, and maybe that's why I wanted to be and to show this and to share, because for me to see it, I already saw it. But when I saw it to your viewers, when I tell you how beautiful, how incredible it is, that's what makes me richer. That's what makes me excited about Blue Ridge Parkway, about travel. Look at
Here they found, at least you found a craft, some things you could buy. Isn't that interesting, though, that Cuba has so little even to sell to the tourists?
And because it was so close, like in May in Cuba and in July in the Blue Ridge, there was no high building. There was no, nothing on a Blue Ridge. But yet those two countries came out so clear and loud. What's the lifestyle on both of them? You can talk about this. You can say, what's that Cuba, the poor people of Cuba? And not because they're poor, but because they're not free. And the freedom that you can see on the Blue Ridge, incredible. It's so exciting, Jack.
Nadia, it's wonderful, I'll tell you. You always bring such excitement. I love that. We're going to bring you when you come back to do your book and sell it to. You'll have another trip for me.
Thank you.
I know. You'll have to get Roman ready. I don't know where you're going to take him.
Well, it's a good problem to have.
Yes.
Because I said our bucket list is empty, but I still find some places to travel, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm going off to Alaska.
Oh, wonderful.
Next summer, so I'm excited about that.
It's a wonderful trip.
Yep, and we're going to be up in Vancouver. My son insisted I see all these beautiful gardens they
those
have there.
gardens are gorgeous in Vancouver.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Right.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
We'll see you again your next trip up to Massachusetts.
Thank you very much.
And we'll thank the soldiers who helped us win the Spanish-American War from the Commonwealth.
Yeah, that was exciting. That was very exciting. Thank you for having me, Jack.